Hello there. Well, I thought it was probably time to revisit the Planet X bike and the EC130 disc, which I've got hanging on the wall at the back. Yesterday I tipped up the 10,000 miles on the bike, so I thought I'd just spend a minute or two sharing a few thoughts on it. Basically, I love it. I've not had any problems with it. I've not really had any major issues with it so far. I've changed the spec from what it came with originally to some degree. Probably the biggest difference, the biggest improvement in terms of performance was swapping out the wheels. So I've now got 55mm carbon tubeless, and they run beautifully on this bike. I do notice it makes a difference when you're on the flat, when you get things, it's just easier to keep the bike rolling. In terms of performance, it's just a really great bike. It's comfortable over long distances, but when you put the hammer down, you know, it goes really well too. It's reasonably light for an aero bike, it's reasonably stiff. And it's probably the best bike I've had. I don't seriously think that if I went for anything more mainstream, more expensive, that I would notice any difference being just, you know, your average Joe club rider. In terms of wear and tear on the bike, I find I've not had any issues with that in per se. I have just replaced the drive chain, so I had to change the big ring, the cassette and the chain, which came in at about £140, which isn't too bad, I guess. But I've decided that really I'm probably not going to use this bike to commute on, even when the weather's good, which is what I've done in the past, just to try and reduce that wear, because it'd be quite pricey replacing components and things. It runs the 28mm tyres I've spoken about before. I've got the current Continental GP5000 with a tan wall, and they run beautifully. It's really smooth. If I run them at about 70 psi, that seems to be about right, because I like quite a responsive ride. And it's just an all-round great bike. I like the look of it, I like the shape of the frame and the tubes. Not had any issues with seat post slippage, anything like that. Headset bearings are still the original ones, they still run pretty smoothly. I do keep checking the torque on the headsets, and you know, from time to time, but that's just me being anal with the bike. I just get on it and I ride it and I hang it back up on the wall, and that's about it. I keep the drive chain lubricated. It's just an all-round great bike. One of the other changes that I made that's made a difference is putting a set of gravel bars on it, which are flared out quite a bit, which does look a little bit odd, I suppose, but I just find them really, really comfortable, because I've got a negative 17-degree stem on it as well. It's quite aggressive at the front, but those bars have got quite a shallow drop, and so I've noticed that I ride on the drops a lot more now. It feels a lot more comfortable. The previous bars I had on it were quite a bit deeper, and so it felt like I was overstretching when I was in the drops. But these are absolutely perfect, and it's really comfortable, and I can ride for quite long periods in the drops, you know, if you're grovelling into a headwind, and that works really well. I also find the way that the levers are angled out slightly makes it a lot easier for me to reach the brake levers and change gear. So it's just an all-round great bike, and I'd recommend it to anybody for the price and what's around. And you can probably pick them up second hand, you know, for a good price as well. The only issue, and it's not to do with the bike, it's to do with the kit that's on it, is I find that the SRAM Force 22 calipers do tend to just catch the discs. I don't think they pop back out properly. I've looked at several YouTube videos and I've had them off, and I've worked the pistons to try and whether they seize up a little bit or something, I'm not entirely sure. It's not noticeable when you ride it. When you spin the wheel, you don't particularly notice it, but if you're pushing the bike along, you can just hear it catch now and again, which is a bit of a niggle. So at some point, I think I'll just take them off completely, strip them down as far as I can, clean everything up, put them back on, and see if that improves it. But it is really only a minor niggle. I certainly don't notice it in terms of performance. And like I say, the bike is pretty much the frame and forks. That's a group set issue. But all around great bike, and I'm hoping that there'll be another 10,000 miles plus still to come with it. If there are any changes, I'll post a video up. But other than that, if you've got one, happy riding. If you're thinking about it, you know, as far in my experience, I'd certainly recommend it. Cheers.